Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV for round 2 of the NSX Summer Cup. We had an exciting round 1 out and the land of the rising sun at Suzuka. And now we've headed over to Belgium for round 2, and, well, we're bringing the heat as well. Blistering conditions out here in the summer. 33 degrees ambient, 42 degrees out there on track, and the drivers really are feeling the heat. Welcome to the broadcast for this evening. My name is Ryan Gill. I have Jake Boswell behind the cameras as per usual on the Monday night, and joining me as he did for the first round of the championship, it is Nate Norbury. Nate, how are you doing?
I'm doing good for a Monday evening. It's been a long day, but I've been looking forward to this event all day, and well, since last week actually, since I saw how close the racing was in the midfield as well. I'm hoping though this week we do not have a repeat of the last week where we had Giuseppe Diana just run away with it, pole position and the race win, when barely put a wheel wrong, was hardly ever challenged for his lead during the race, and yeah, strolled home to a comfortable victory.
Definitely did stroll home to a comfortable victory, but, well, it's not all gone Giuseppe Diana's way, at least in practice. We did see a dominant performance in practice out at Suzuka in those conditions, but out here in what is very, very difficult conditions, 42 degrees track temperature out there. Giuseppe Diana not dominating the practice session. They were at least half a second clear in practice at Suzuka. They are almost 7/10 down on Pichik at this point in time. He does lead the practice session. Obviously, practice isn't the whole story when it comes to qualifying and the race, but it does give us the best metric for measurement that we can use to see who is the quickest going into the qualifying session, and it's looking pretty close at the top. And in fact, all the way down to 17th are within 1 second, Nate, and that was something that we did not see out at Suzuka last week.
No, that's actually ridiculous to think that 17 cars covered by less than 1 second. That definitely gives a good indication for the race. I am a little bit concerned about the gap up front, but again, like you said, practice is not the full picture, and some of these drivers may just be holding back a little bit for qualifying to make up some surprise positions.
Could very well be, and of course, practice won't really tell the entire pace. A lot of these guys might be just out here running race simulations at this stage. Of course, these are the conditions that they should be encountering come the race session, which will take place on the Sunday. Of course, the Friday session takes place, the practice session, sorry, takes place on the Friday. And a lot of them will kind of mix up the different strategies that they have for practice. Some of them will try for those quick laps, and other ones will mainly focus purely on the race pace and the strategy. And that's something worth talking about here tonight, Nate, because, I mean, I thought it was going to be a fairly slam dunk, lights out to checkered flag, you don't come in for a pit stop at all. And Bart Matcher told me that, it is difficult to go the entire way on, a full tank of fuel in 75 minutes at Suzuka, but a lot of them did manage to do it. But we did see some cars take tyres, and, well, it turned out to be a very good decision for a few of those drivers. And I do wonder out here today, with 42 degrees track temperature, 33 degrees ambient, tyres are going to be a much bigger element thrown into the strategy, and it's going to be something a lot more drivers are considering this week.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it to work out to the great effect of one driver last week. I believe it was Poma in the number 4, chasing and hunting down Curtin, but getting caught up in some, well, they weren't really back markers, were they? They were ahead of them on the track, but just significantly slower than the pair of them. But like you said, drivers didn't take tyres, and some of them did get caught out by it. Poma, once in clear air, completely monstered up to the back of Curtin and passed them for position on the track. So again, with the temperatures being a little bit warmer here, you would think that more drivers this week will come in for tyres, because chances are they're just going to overheat them and grain them into the ground and then completely lose all their time.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all of that works out as we come to the end of the practice session. It is going to be Pitchick that finishes at the top of the timing table with a 1:28.518. Very, very quick lap time in these conditions. The track is up to optimum. You'll remember back at Suzuka, it was still fast conditions when we came into qualifying. But of course, with the heat well and truly out here today, the track has gripped up a lot quicker than it would have in the early morning hours of Suzuka. And now we look forward to the qualifying session ahead. So here we go then.
Green light. Go, go, go.
It is round 2 of the NSX Summer Cup, and we are here for 15 minutes of qualifying. And well, it was difficult for a couple of drivers to find some space out at Suzuka, and Suzuka is a fairly large circuit. Zolder, much, much smaller, but they have 15 minutes. It should be plenty of time for everyone to find a spot on track and get a lap down. But it's going to be a bit cramped out there to begin with.
Yeah, my prediction will be that the first chicane will catch more people out than they may themselves be expecting. I feel like we're going to see a couple of invalidated laps with people maybe just trying to gain those extra temps, going in a little bit too hot, missing their braking zone and needing to cut the chicane. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I reckon we're going to lose a fair amount of laps on that chicane. And even then, if not that one, this second one that we are approaching now, it's, again, very easy just to miss your braking point and run wide, needing to take to the escape part of the curb, you could call it, that large bit of green concrete, AstroTurf. I'm not quite sure what it is. But again, running all 4 wheels over that, you will lose your lap.
Yeah, very, very easy to invalidate a lap around here at Zolder. We did highlight a couple of people that got drive-through penalties at Suzuka for track limits, and a couple of drivers that invalidated their laps. That is going to be an issue here at Zolder as well. But here we go then. This is it. The start of the very first qualifying lap of the session, and it will be Lucas Seidel who comes down in towards turn 1. Nice and aggressive on the inside, wide as you like on the exit of the corner as well, making sure to not run all 4 tyres off the circuit. Come into a tight apex for turn 2, then blast through turn 3 as you make your way towards turn 4. Want to shift down to 3rd gear here, stick as close as you can to the inside, run onto the exit curb, don't touch the gravel or the grass, it will slow you down. And now, coming into sector 2, we come to the first of 3 chicanes on this circuit. Through the first one we go, so aggressive, you can see the car jumping up and down on the ground. And now over the crest of the hill, up towards the second chicane on the circuit. This is where a lot of laps do get invalidated. You have to be nice and aggressive across the flat curbs, don't mind the anti-cuts, and then nice and wide on the exit, maximize the line that you have through this sequence of corners now, and down towards the hairpin we go. Nice and late on the brakes you need to be here. Tuck the car in nice and early and maximize the exit on these curbs again, through the quick little change of direction, and then up towards the final couple of corners, the final chicane as it's officially considered on this circuit, down into the low gears. First gear there, nice and easy over the rumble curbs, and then off on to the start-finish straight. And Lucas Seidel, what is this going to be for a very first lap time? It is valid. It's a 1:29.6 for Seidel. It is immediately beaten by Santos. 1:29.5s, and Ertan and Boardman have gone quicker as well. And look at that from Ertan, a 1:29.1 to start us off.
Yeah, incredible times. I'm actually surprised looking through the field. Most of the drivers are actually going to come through for a valid lap on their first lap. If anything, I would have expected the first lap to almost be a sighter lap for the drivers, to sort of see where they can push the limits, how late they can stop into the corners. But yeah, most of the drivers, give or take a handful, have all completed valid laps. So we sort of have a rough estimate a rough guide, I suppose you could call it, for how the grid is currently lining up. I think a few drivers definitely got some times to improve on the board, as we see Burt Matcher go up into 5th place with a very respectable 29.6. So now drivers have had their first laps. Ryan, do you think we're going to see the times improve as they know how deep they can go into corners, or do you think we're going to see a lot more invalidated laps now they've all sort of got their banker lap in.
I think it's a bit of a mix. You're going to see some drivers really go for it now and really, chew down on those lap times and get them as low as they can. Other drivers, they are going to push it a bit too hard. They are going to invalidate their laps. And Giuseppe De Anna, the championship leader, did not have a great banker lap, 2.2 seconds down on what the provisional pole time was. So didn't invalidate their lap, but definitely didn't get a clean lap. Here they come over the line. And, well, would you look at that provisional pole for Giuseppe De Anna, 60 thousandths ahead of Atabak Ertan. The track has now gone to optimum. It was fast at the start of the session, but the track has now gripped up fully. Giuseppe De Anna is going to return to the pit lane, but Pitchick, who was fastest in the practice session, has gone faster, and it's the first driver into the 28s for qualifying. A 128.968 by the 141, and that is a very, very big landmark put down in front of Giuseppe De Anna by Pitchick to say, look, you might have dominated Suzuka, but it's not going to be the same story here at Zolder.
Yeah, it's definitely, it is a challenge, isn't it? It's a sort of a, right, you think you can get away with what you did to us at Suzuka? I'm not letting that happen, and has sort of gone in, guns blazing, and is going quicker again on this lap, would you believe it? So, we'll have to see, can Giuseppe De Anna raise their game? Do they have more in hand? As we see Alan Knight pop himself up into P2 with, again, a 28.9, only fractionally slower than Pitchick. So, Giuseppe De Anna, excuse me, has come back out onto the track, is now on their outlap, and we wait with bated breath to see what they can do.
Of course, the temperature has risen slightly. Tom Bryan in the chat just highlighting that when the session did start, we're up to 43 degrees track temperature, 34 degrees ambient. It is boiling out here, well and truly embracing the summer spirit of this championship here at Zolder. And it has been a big talking point all week for the drivers, how they're going to cope with these conditions. And I think that might be why you're seeing a couple of drivers out here that we would expect to be much further up the order, maybe just struggling, not, being able to practice maybe enough throughout the week in these very, very hot conditions, maybe not entirely prepared for it. And that's something that, well, practice does pay off in some of these situations, and Giuseppe De Anna has dropped down to 8th now as drivers start improving their lap time, so you can start to see how everything is starting to change. And look at this day. I mean, we had, what was it, about 7 or 8 cars within a second of the leader at Suzuka. If you go all the way down to 24th place, they're within a second. It's so much closer here at Zolder, and you have to wonder, is it the heat that has to do with that, or is it just that the majority of our drivers are just so much more comfortable out here despite these conditions?
I would say it's probably a combination of the two, and I would also argue that without taking anything away from this track, Suzuka is quite a technical track. There are a lot of opportunities for you to lose more time than you can gain. So I think the track layout, the drivers being comfortable, having now had a go in these cars, turning the wheels in anger, and the track conditions are all playing a factor in how close the field is. But it's fantastic news for us. I'm hoping they'll all be this close during the race, because everywhere we'll have action to commentate on.
In the European Masters round we had at Zolder, there was some interesting strategic calls called by a certain James Parker in a BMW, which created about 25 minutes of pure madness. And if you do have a spare hour and a half to go back and watch an RCI broadcast, I cannot recommend the European Masters Zolder round enough. It was absolutely fantastic. But go do that later when you have the time. Stick around here, because we still have 6.5 minutes of the qualifying session here to go, and then a 75-minute race, just as we had a week ago at Suzuka. This is Alan Knight, has been knocked off of provisional pole in the silver class, and coming back up towards the timing line now, will not improve on their lap time, or will they? No, they will improve on their lap time actually, but they won't go ahead of the likes of Pilbeam, who currently has the provisional pole for the silvers locked out. And it is good to see some of the silver drivers in and amongst the pros as well, and it's quite interesting to see the driver that put on a lot of the pressure and a lot of the show for the silver class at Suzuka, Poama all the way down in 26th, really not getting to grips with this circuit.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think the heat is definitely having an effect on how some of these drivers are approaching their qualifying runs, especially the drivers that may favor slightly more aggressive setups that are maybe a little bit edgier, a little bit more sort of wild if you get on the power a little bit too much and really rely on having a car that's a little bit edgy to give them their faster lap times. But unfortunately, the conditions just are not playing into that style of setup. So you might find the drivers are a little bit easy and a little bit kinder, but not actually faster than these drivers are putting in the better times just because their cars are stable and more consistent and they can get the most out of their laps.
Simon Bauer crosses the line but will not improve on their time. And Giuseppe D'Anna, though, has improved on their time and they've jumped up to second place. They're going to return to pit lane, though. Not going to have many more chances to try and gain a second pole position of the season. 36 thousandths of a second separate them. Here is Crozen, though, just about 0.3 of a second off provisional pole, will improve their lap time, but will not gain any more places. They will stay in fourth. But the top four covered by 1/4 of a second at this stage in the race. And it's another day of surprises for me out here, Nate, because there are drivers further down the order that I would really not expect them to be where they are. I mean, Cormac Ryan Meenan, who I bigged up last week, and he didn't really have a great race. Partially his fault, partially not. He's down in 13th place. Bart Matcher in 12th, and Valentin Barrier, who was the real challenger to Giuseppe D'Anna last week, and unfortunately didn't manage to quite, throw the challenge down that we expected, is sitting in 10th place.
Yeah, I have to admit, obviously, prior to last week, these are all or mostly new faces for me, as we see Simon Bauer getting a little bit sideways. Again, just touching on the drivers who favor a slightly edgier setup, not playing into their hands, although they are running third on the road, so clearly working for them. But yeah, as of last week, most of the people here, give or take a handful, were all completely new faces to me. And I remember asking you, so, Ryan, who are the ones to watch? And I remember you saying Valentin Barrier, the Ryan Meenans, both of them, only Cormac here tonight, and Matcher were all ones to watch. And like you said, this week they seem to be almost in no man's land.
Could be a difficult season for some of the regulars that have stuck it out through the summer season. Of course, a lot of the drivers we're used to seeing at the top of the order currently on a summer's break. And it does allow some new faces to make their presence known. And, well, Giuseppe D'Anna has made their presence known fairly well. And Pitchick doing a good job, as well as Simon Bauer. We've got Crozen in fourth. And Harley Chamberlain has actually taken the provisional pole in silver. I had not noticed that until just a moment ago. So Harley Chamberlain, who had pulled off some of the best moves of the race out at Suzuka, despite some of their own issues that they'd encountered later on, definitely doing a good job in qualifying. But look at Olaf Leffer has gone up into third place. Now just about 1/10.5 off of the provisional pole time with 2 minutes left on the clock. And that is a very, very nice lap time. But Simon Bauer has thrown down the gauntlet as well. He's not going to allow the likes of Pitchick to take this pole position easily. 27,000 separates the front row. And if you go back to Giuseppe D'Anna, it's 63 thousandths of a second. It is so close between the top three.
I've got a feeling Giuseppe D'Anna is going to be one of the players to watch for the entire of this championship because, okay, hold my hands up, we are only 2 rounds in, but from this week to last week, obviously a lot of names have gone up and down the board, but Giuseppe D'Anna is still up there, showing, again, I know we're only 2 races in, but consistency as it stands in the championship. So I'm definitely going to keep my eye on Giuseppe, but as you said, the front of the field is so close, even down to, well, the timing screen here only goes down to 23rd place, but even then, the cars from 23rd to 1st separated by less than 1 second. Still, I'm going to be honest, I'm getting a little bit excited for the race.
Well, Rins Krozen will be very, very excited towards the end of qualifying, because look at that. They have just thrown down a mega lap in the silver class. The lap time equals the likes of Giuseppe De Anna, but they will take provisional pole in the silver class unless the likes of Chamberlain, Curtin, Pilbeam, or Knight have any sort of reply. That should be the silver class pole position decided. That is a fantastic lap time, but Bauer has gone even quicker. It's a 128.437 for the German. And that to me, Nate, that looks like a lap time that is not going to be beaten unless Giuseppe De Anna and Ole Pitchik can really pull out a clutch lap out of the bag.
Yeah, I can't see anyone, like you said, beating that. Although, as we see, or it did flash up there, Pitchik was slightly up on their lap. But, Giuseppe De Anna has abandoned their lap, so they have thrown in the towel. The gauntlet was set, and they could not rise to the challenge. So now we wait with bated breath to see if Pitchik can get any closer and potentially even beat the time of Simon Bauer.
Well, Pitchik up by half a tenth at this stage coming into the final sector. They need to recover roughly about, I'd say, a tenth and a half if you're going to make it nice and comfortable, but there is nothing comfortable about the margins they have to work with. It's a slow exit from the hairpin, though, coming towards the final chicane. Unless they can gain an enormous amount of time, they gain on the entry, but it's a slow exit, losing it as well, and that will be it. They'll concede the lap, and Simon Bauer has done it. They piled on the pressure late in the session, and they have taken the overall and pro pole position for Zolder here tonight. And that does spice things up well and truly for the race. It is Rins Krozen in pole position for the silver class. I do not think Pilbeam has the ability to beat it. No, Pilbeam's down on their lap time as they come up towards the timing line. And that is it. Qualifying is over. The number 13 is at the top of the session. And, well, if you thought Giuseppe De Anna was going to arrive at Zolder and run away with it after what you saw last week, you've got a very, very different challenge in front of you here today. And as well, look how interesting this is, Nate. The silver cars spread throughout the field quite well, in fact, throughout the top 10. We have 4 silver cars in the top 10. And then the rest of them divided amongst some of the pro drivers that are just struggling in these conditions. Bart Matcher down in 18th, and Cormac Ryan Meenan 20th.
Yeah, it is quite strange. I can't figure out why. I suppose we'll have to ask them when the event is over, Ryan. But yeah, as we wait for the grid to go green, do you want to give us the points of the championship?
Definitely can. We will give you a little rundown of the standings. Obviously not too difficult from what you saw last week, but of course there are the pole position and fastest lap times to be considered as well. So here we go then. Giuseppe De Anna leads the way at the top of the table. There should be no surprise there. Grabbed an absolute hat-trick of points to lead with 72. Valentin Barrier collected that second place, so they have 58 points. Attenberg Ertan as well, rounding out the podium with 53. Ole Pitchik in 4th place with Peter Rocher behind them in 5th. Bart Matcher had a solid race as well in 6th place. Stephen Van Kampen in 7th. Andy Boardman 8th. Then we have Franz Mora and Menno Krozen rounding out the top 10. Everything still very, very close at this stage in the championship. And as we move on to the second page of the championship standings, you'll continue to see how close it does get as you are further down the order. So it has Nico Kumpu on 25 points. We've got Pedro Santos on 23 and Cormac Ryan, who had a very, very poor race, actually on 21 points. Then you can see the rest of the field there that scored 0 points in round 1. Manisha, Bauer, Betcher, Rossi, Seedor and Leffer. Quite a few of those drivers that were not there for round 1. And of course, that does mean we will move on to the silver drivers. And it should be no surprise that what we saw in the pro class, we're in the finishing order of the race results, that will transition over into the silver class very easily as well, very similar to the race results. Although it was Darren Mulholland, wasn't it, that claimed the pole position in the silver class last week, and well, they finished well down the order. That's why they're down in 9th place. But it was Curtin that got the win from Poama, and then Chamberlain on the podium. Hopner, Fernando, Knight, Sontag, Pilbeam, Mulholland, and Strzezinski all round out that top 10 in the silver class. Obviously going down 65, 61, 53, 48, 44, 40, 37, 34, 32, and 31 points. And then moving on to the second page, the rest of the silver drivers that finished out the race. And then, of course, some of the sign-outs that we had for the championship. Redford and Quinn did finish the race. Yilmaz, Swadi, Kamprega, Nagy, Krozen, Abukamov, and Stier all not scoring points in round one. And that does set us up very, very nicely for the second round of the championship here. And, well, the big question is, Nate, I suppose, after what we saw in round one and after what we've seen now in qualifying, who is going to win this race?
Well, I'm going to do what I always do, take the easy way out. There will be one car that absolutely indefinitely finishes ahead of the rest of them and wins the race.
Unbelievable.
Hey, it's the easy way out.
Unbelievable. I mean, okay, so we should run through it then. So we've got Simon Bauer at the front of the grid with Ole Pitchik alongside them. Now, we saw Ole Pitchik collect 4th place in round one. Simon Bauer was not present for round one. So obviously we didn't know what Simon Bauer's pace would be coming into this championship, but Pitchik has found an extra gear in this car this weekend. That means that they're going to be able to challenge the likes of Giuseppe De Anna. Olaf Leffer is looking pretty good. Didn't show up for round one either, had to use a sign out. And Menno Krozen is also looking much better than they were last week as well. So we have 5 drivers in the pro class up towards there that are looking very, very good. We have Rins Krozen in the mix as well in the silver class, who put out an incredible lap time to throw their silver car up as high as they did. But, I mean, if it's coming out to it, if we're going to go based on qualifying alone and what we've seen in practice, it's going to be Bauer or Pitchik that wins this race. But could it just be that Giuseppe De Anna has the consistency to win here tonight? Well, we're about to find out. In 15 seconds' time, the clock will hit 0 and we will be ready to start the second formation lap of the season for the NSX Summer Cup. Of course, we do have live stewarding here tonight, as we did for round one. And all of the drivers will have to keep that in mind. We did see a few scrappy opening laps, didn't we, at Suzuka to start the season. And, well, some of the drivers in the silver class that won't be used to live stewarding, maybe this time around here at Zolder, they'll be a bit more calmer. And, well, you do have to be calm at this circuit. It's not easy to pass, and patience really is the aim of the game.
It's also not a very forgiving circuit, especially with the gravel traps everywhere. I mean, if you stick a wheel on there, very easy to lose control of the car, and definitely easy to send yourself backwards than it is to make up positions in this race. So, again, like you said, it's patience, it's the calm nerves, it's just putting the guy ahead of you under enough pressure that when they check the mirror, they do it in a braking zone, they miss their brakes, they go deep into the corner, and you can make your move. So, like you said, patience, don't overdrive the car, don't overheat your tires. That's also another key one, especially with these track temperatures. That will be a very, very easy thing to do. And also, don't launch your car coming into this first chicane either, because that will end your race.
Yeah, very, very easy to end your race early down at the first chicane. You get that corner wrong, easily end up in the barrier, and you can easily end up taking someone else out of the race as well. Something that the stewards will not look too kindly upon. Of course, they do punish lap 1 incidents much harsher than they would any other incident throughout the race. And, of course, that does mean that they have to be careful on that opening lap. If you take someone out, don't give back the position, you should be expecting a drive-through penalty coming your way. And, well, we did actually see that out in the Friday Championship. Last week started, the Donington Special. Did see a driver disqualified after about 4 laps of the race, so it wasn't a great start for their season. Well, in fact, their season is over. They were disqualified, but it's one of the things you do want to avoid. But here we go then, down towards the end of the formation lap. We have 75 minutes of racing here tonight. Going to be the same format and length throughout the entire season, not like the other races that we've had, the Euro Masters, where we had a couple of different formats, and the same with the British GT Championship. But they start to line up 2 by 2 as far as they can see. We have 28 cars on the grid here tonight, 2 classes, and they are all challenging for those illustrious points to take them up to the top or clear at the top of the table. Here we go then. It's going to be Bauer and Pitchik on the front row of the grid, Deanna and then Crozen in the silver class right behind them. Turn 1, quite notorious down here at Zolder, but if you can get it right, you can clear yourself away from the rest of the grid if there is chaos behind. We will be hoping for no chaos behind as the green flag drops for round 2 of the NSX Summer Cup. The drivers start to spread out down to turn 1, and Bauer on the inside line secures his place up into first, and now Pitchik will look behind to defend. Giuseppe Deanna makes sure that they can get in front of Crozen to start the opening lap, and I think it has got very clean through the first couple of corners there, through turns 1, 2, and now 3 down to 4 as well. It has looked like a very solid start for everyone involved, and learning lessons from last week.
Yeah, I haven't seen a yellow flag as we see a couple of cars go off there, but everyone's still pointing in the right direction, so no yellow flags as of yet. So like you said, all throughout round the first sequence of corners cleanly, as we see an amazing move come out from Crozen there. I think Giuseppe, again, lap 1, maybe cold tires, cold brakes, just went a little bit too deep, lost 2 places as a result of that mistake. So now they will be frustrated with that. Will we see the frustration boil over? We didn't see them racing in traffic at Suzuka, so it will be interesting to see how they deal with cars ahead of them now. And do they get frustrated easily? Are they going to make silly mistakes? Are they going to accidentally punt someone from an aggressive move? It's all about to unfold in front of us for the next 75 minutes, Ryan.
It's not been a great start to the race for Cormac Quinn, though. The 190 car down in 26th place. They've got a drive-through penalty on the start of the race, and I can tell you that is for being out of position on the starting grid when the lights went out. We've got cars off at the final chicane. A couple of cars off into the gravel. Didn't quite see what happened there, and it has been a relatively clean opening lap of the race, apart from the few cars that are still stranded down there in the gravel. The number 25 of Kumpu is stranded down there, and so is the 190 car of Quinn, who has to serve that drive-through penalty. Meanwhile, all that is going on. Ertan and Mora going side by side. Actually, no, that's Pilbeam going through on Ertan, sorry. So Pilbeam in the silver class managing to get past the likes of Ataberk, Ertan. And whilst it has been fairly clean throughout the first lap of the race, only a couple of minor incidents towards the end of the lap, there is chaos throughout some of the grid as some of these drivers having a difficult start to the race. Here is Pedro Santos on the likes of Sidor getting through and up into 3rd place, and that is going to be a difficult place to gain back for Sidor because they're under pressure from the likes of Peter Roche and Steven Van Kamp, but already there's slight contact in towards the 2nd chicane, and that's a lot of contact. As they both cut the chicane as well. That's not going to be looked upon nicely by the stewards. Going to be a serious inquiry into that, an unnecessary amount of body contact. And Peter Roche and Lucas Seidel definitely getting elbows out, and Steven Van Kampen almost goes into the back of the 21 as he misses his braking point.
My goodness, there is absolutely action everywhere. I'm so glad to see it, because at this point at Suzuka, some of the pack had already started to thin out already, but as you can see, all the cars are still pretty much on top of one another. As we see Simon Bauer come round to complete his 2nd lap of the race. Nice gap between him and Pittrick of about 1.2 seconds. So slowly just building that gap. And as we see Crozen in the 3rd place position, but Giuseppe Deanna still holding station in that 5th place. Doesn't seem to be able to make up the ground. So I think my early praise may have been a little bit premature.
Well, Nate jumping the gun on the Giuseppe Deanna support, but there is a long way to go in this race, and everything could very well change. We talked about tyre strategies. Will anyone be going for tyres in this race? There is no mandatory pit stop, but considering that some drivers made it work at Suzuka, a couple of drivers might be thinking about doing that for the race here at Zolder with these temperatures, 42 degrees out there on track. These tyres they're going to be screaming later on into this race, and well, some of the drivers will probably want to get those tyres off halfway through the race, get a new fresh set on, and keep it going. I have been told by Bart Matchy you can go 75 minutes here fairly comfortably, so there shouldn't really be any fuel-saving strategies from any of these drivers. It's just going to come down to how many of them decide that it's worth taking a set of tyres at some point throughout the race. Giuseppe De Anna, though, under pressure from Crozen in the 82 at this stage, and like you said, Nate, losing ground to the cars ahead.
Yeah, it's again, like, I do agree, maybe I did jump the gun a little bit on the praise for Giuseppe De Anna, but they had such a dominant win at Suzuka. It was hard not to peg them as the favourite for this race, but track conditions just obviously not agreeing with them, their car, or a combination of both of them. It's interesting to see how different drivers are capable at different circuits, which I suppose makes sense. Everyone has a favourite track, but it's definitely pulled the wool over my eyes and definitely got me into a bit of an early situation. But as we see, the grid's still quite tightly formed, still battles going on for position, and I think, Ryan, this chicane is going to be one of the places we see most of the overtakes happening.
Definitely is. There are places to overtake here at Zolder. You just have to be committed. You also have to wait for mistakes on a lot of occasions, and well, mistakes are quite common here at Zolder. It is a very, very tricky circuit to get around, and especially in these Hondas as well. They're not the easiest of cars to drive, and that is why the NSX Summer Cup is such a popular championship that people have wanted us to run again. And here is Atterberg Ertan under pressure from Harley Chamberlain in fourth in the silver class. These cars not competing for position in class. Of course, one of them a pro driver, the other one a silver driver, but Harley Chamberlain knows that if they can get past the likes of Ertan, they've got two silver cars in podium positions right ahead of them. And Harley Chamberlain finished third at Suzuka, so they're going to want to continue that run of form on the podium. But to do that, they're going to have to get round the number 14 car that at this stage does not look like it has the pace to continue with Curtin and Pilby.
Yeah, it's very, very slowly, very marginally just dropping off the back of them, and Chamberlain will see that, obviously climbing all over the back of Ertan, just see two of his main rivals slowly starting to pull away. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the frustration does start to creep in, and that's when we start to see some of the more aggressive moves.
Well, Lucas Seidel continues with his defensive effort, and this is Simon Bauer, by the way, the leader of the race. Had a very nice run down into turn one, had the inside line, and essentially just started to drive away. They've got a 1.4 second gap between themselves and Pitchick, then 1.6 seconds back is the silver leader of Crozen, Rins Crozen. And they're having a pretty good race so far, up into third overall and leading their class. Didn't have the most impressive of races out last week at Suzuka, but clearly having a much better time here at Zolder. And this is Menno Crozen, who's in the pro class, and it's quite amusing, isn't it, to see both Crozens out on track and the one in the silver class out ahead of the one in the pro class. But I'm sure that will not really be too much of a concern to Menno Crozen at this stage. Their only concern is Giuseppe De Anna right in front of them. And now we look back to Atterberg Ertan again, who is still looking backwards towards Harley Chamberlain, and maybe a bit of a cork in the bottle at this stage. 4 cars behind right now, none of them really pushing for a move, but it's quite clear at this stage that Ertan doesn't really have the pace to pull away from them.
Yeah, I think it's more of a case of, like you said, the cork in the bottle. The cars, I don't think it's not so much that they're not looking for a move. I just think it might be that when they try and line one up, Ertan just gets a better drive out of the corner they might be lining them up on, and just seems to, as we see, massive amounts of curb there, taking the front end of the NSX off the floor. Now Chamberlain's got to run down the inside. Can they make it stick around the outside of the chicane? They'll be on the outside for the first part, but the inside for the second part. Can they do it? Keeping tidy. That was clean. Very well done to both these drivers, giving each other just enough space. It was hard but fair.
It was absolutely lovely, and I almost wonder if Ertan maybe gave up that position not quite so generously to a different car. Oh, we got someone off, and oh, if they gone into Harley Chamberlain, I think they have. Someone's gone off. I'm not sure if they touched the grass or if there was contact behind, but one of the cars behind, was it Santos potentially in the 86?
I think it
Has
was.
gone off the track. It was the 86 of Santos. They've gone off the track and into Harley Chamberlain's path, and that has compromised the race for the 7-5 immensely, dropping down the order. And I imagine both of those cars might be coming into the pit lane to see if they can fix that damage. Harley Chamberlain is definitely in the pit lane, and Pedro Santos as well. Oh, and it sounds cruel, doesn't it? But after an incredible overtake from Harley Chamberlain through the second chicane, it was ultimately their downfall, because if they hadn't made the overtake, well, it would have been Ertan that would have been collected by Pedro Santos instead. And oh, such an unfortunate accident for Harley Chamberlain to be involved in. But we're looking now at Franz Mora in 12th place. A couple of drivers obviously benefiting from that accident, and a driver that has built their way up the order so far fairly well is Cormac Ryan Meenan, up into 16th place. He started down in 20th, but a driver that has not had a good time is Bart Matcher. He's all the way down in 26th and last in the Pro class.
Yeah, like you said, really, really unfortunate for Harley Chamberlain there, but it was a case of the right place at the wrong time. Obviously, you always want to be ahead of your competitors, as we see Mulholland going wide there. Is that losing the position or trying to make the position up on Valentino Barrier? No, losing the position to Barrier. So Mulholland going wide, and Barrier saying, well, thank you very much, I'll take that for free. And now Barrier will continue their climb up the leaderboard.
Valentin Barrier started in 15th place. They're up into the top 10 as they come across the timing line, and that's exactly what Valentin Barrier will want to do. They'll want to keep climbing up the order because, of course, they finished second in race one. They'll want to continue on the podium form, and it's going to be quite a fight for them to do that at this stage. But here we have Giuseppe D'Anna, who is falling off the back of Leffe, and you can see the gap there, about 3.7 seconds. 3.9 even, it's gone up as they come to the next split, and still Menno Krozen within half a second as well. So Krozen sticking with Giuseppe D'Anna. It's not just the fact that the number 11 can't live with the top four, it's the fact that they're also not managing to lose the 82 car behind. And I wonder if Menno Krozen does have the pace to, you know, build a gap over Giuseppe D'Anna, but they just can't find a way through at this stage.
Yeah, it does look a bit like that, but the gap does seem to be holding at about half a second, so maybe it's just a case of I can catch you, but I can't quite pass you. So we'll have to wait and see how this develops, but I've got a feeling that unless D'Anna makes a mistake, Krozen may well just be stuck there. Because as you alluded to, there's not very many places where you can overtake here.
Giuseppe D'Anna at this point in the race has to just defend their position because, yep, there we go, 4 seconds, losing more time to Olaf Leffe as the laps go on. Could entirely be that we see a different story later in the race, but here is the battle for second place in the silver class. Olivier Curtin, who ended up being the winner for round one in the silver class, defending from Pilbeam. And Pilbeam, if you don't recognise their car, well, that's because they've changed their livery from round one, and they'll be hoping that, unlike in round one, they don't end up in the barrier early on in the race. But the first 13 minutes have been pretty good for Pilbeam so far, and continuing on nicely and staying within range of Olivier Curtin as well, so that if there are any big mistakes out from the number 38, they will be able to capitalise on it. A little bit of a replay here, and you can see, look at the air. The Curtin gets over the curb as well. Absolutely fantastic to see. And you do have to be very aggressive around here at Zolder and those curbs, and it's a very, very easy way to lose the car, but if you want to go fast, you've got to be committed.
Yeah, I always. How do you approach the curbs of this track, Ryan? As someone who actually hasn't taken the NSX around here, but is fairly comfortable with the Porsche around this track, I avoid them like the plague.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the car. In the Ferrari around here, I haven't been too comfortable kind of riding over some of these curves, but I imagine cars like the Bentley probably don't mind it too much around here. In fact, it's probably not that much of an issue, but It is tricky because in some cars you almost feel like it's a death sentence to touch some of these curves so aggressively, and then in other cars you kind of just see them roll over it like it's a pothole in the road, and they've got the best suspension you can find on a road car. And it is very, very tricky, but one thing is clear about the NSX cars is if you want to go fast around here, you have to use those curves. You have to bounce the car off them. And that's something that the likes of Bauer, Pitchick, and Krozen in the top 3 are doing very, very well. Olaf Leffer included in that. Here is Darren Mulholland, who is letting Lucas Seedorf through. You just saw them slow down slightly on the straight there to let the pro car through. No shame in doing that, by the way. They're not competing for points in each other's class. But, I mean, to me personally, I'd probably prefer to have Seedorf still behind me, because that would mean I don't have a silver competitor directly behind me, but that's the situation that Mulholland has now found themselves in.
Yeah, like I talked about the last race, Ryan, sometimes it's more efficient and more beneficial for you to let the faster car behind you go. Otherwise, you just hold each other up because you spend so much time defending from them, which means you take different and awkward lines into corners, which slow you down, and then obviously as a result, because you're defending, slow the car behind you down, and then you end up rolling yourselves back into the other competitors that maybe you might not have been fighting, or they might not have had a chance to fight with you had you not been losing time defending from someone. As we see, Mulholland poke their nose out, just looking down to the inside, but be rather contradictory to try and make the overtake when you just let them past.
I was about to say it was rather confusing messages from Darren Mulholland in this situation, and there we go. There is a slight mistake from the 777, and that is going to allow Sontag to have the inside line through turn 3 and turn 4. Not quite going to capitalize on the position, but now going to put the pressure down the drag line that they have all the way down towards the chicane. Ooh, slight touch between them. Darren Mulholland will claim that inside line. Oh, Sontag hit the curbs quite hard. I think they have, and they've lost some time. And that has given Darren Mulholland just a bit of comfort for the time being until the 223 could start to regain that time. But it was just a slight mistake from Mulholland that gave Sontag the ability to make that overtake from what was about half a second back as well. And that's some of the gaps you can see around here, most of the gaps you can see from cars following each other. It's just around half a second, and one small mistake can cost you half a second around here quite easily. And, well, those are the kind of mistakes that a lot of drivers are going to be looking forward to try and get some overtakes done. And, well, that's exactly what Menno Krozen is looking at right now from Giuseppe D'Anna, but no mistakes so far. Here is Andy Boardman in the number 69 car, quite far down in 19th place overall. Not what I expected from Andy Boardman, and that is Stephen Van Kampen, who I believe had an incident early on in the race. They were off in the first couple of laps, so they're trying to recover what they can of this race so far. And Peter Roche hasn't had a great start either, as they're down into 17th place, just losing more time. They were up in 12th much earlier on in the race.
I've just been looking at the timings here, Ryan, and so obviously we're talking about that cork in the bottle that Giuseppe D'Anna is becoming. Their fastest lap is a 29.7, while the 4 cars ahead of them are in the low 29. So Leffe is doing a 29.3 as we cut to a replay here. That's some bouncy curves we got there for the 172.
That's Valentin Barrier, isn't it? Just committing over those curves.
But yeah, so Leffe is a 29.3, Krozen is a 29.3 as well, and then Pitchick and Bauer are both doing 29.1s, but Giuseppe D'Anna in a 29.7, so definitely holding up Krozen behind, I believe, although their fastest lap is only a 29.6, but could that be because they are stuck behind D'Anna? But if you go one place a little bit further back, Curtin there, just lurking in the background a little bit, lap from lap, is actually also their fastest lap, down in the 29.3s as well. So it will be interesting to see if these cars can clear Giuseppe D'Anna, what kind of gap they can build ahead of them if they can make it past them.
Yeah, that is what they have to do at this stage in the race, and well, the silver cars getting involved here is quite interesting because at this stage, Menno Crozen has mostly just been challenging the likes of Giuseppe De Anna for that 4th place in the Pro class, but now presented with a slightly different situation with the silver cars closing back in, and this is good for Alex Pilbeam because what's going to happen eventually? Oh, we got someone turned around.
308.
That's the 308.
That's
a
Leffy.
Leffer. That's Leffer in the podium positions in the Pro class, and oh my word, Olaf Leffer missed the first round of the season. Was in the podium positions. Oh, I've seen that too many times. Just catches the grass slightly on the exit, running the curb as wide as they can. And the car just doesn't like it. The bumps over there, not great. Oh, comes back on and hits the wall slightly as well, but a safe rejoin, which is nice to see. But Olaf Leffer from a podium position in the Pro class now finds himself well and truly down the order. In fact, are they just in the top 10? Yes, they are. But that's not good for the likes of Olaf Leffer, and some front-end damage on that car as well, which is probably not going to help their case throughout the rest of the race. But here we go. Interesting situation now for Crozen, because silver cars behind that want to get through and clearly do have the pace to catch up and possibly pass the likes of Menno Crozen. And Crozen will probably want to not let them pass for multiple reasons. One, because they can see Giuseppe De Anna, who's now in a podium Pro position at this stage in the race. And then, well, another reason is they'll probably want to defend the likes of Rins Crozen's silver class lead up front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just sort of a racing instinct, isn't it? To, regardless if you're fighting with the car or not, you never want someone to pass you. You always want to hold them, well, not so much hold them up, but, well, just get in their way, I suppose. But it could work to Crozen's advantage to let Curtin pass, because if Curtin has the pace, they could close up on Giuseppe De Anna and then potentially force De Anna into a mistake, which would then allow Crozen to sneak on past. So it's a case of sort of maybe playing the long game, taking the loss now for the greater win later.
The advantage, well, disadvantage rather, that you have in this scenario is you have no idea how the rest of the race is going to play out, and it always does trickle in the mind if you make the wrong, the wrong decision in the middle of the race. It's something that you would have regretted doing and not done the next time around, and all sorts of decisions that can go against you or go for you. Hindsight is 20/20, and at this stage in the race, one thing is clear: Menno Crozen has no plans to let the silver cars go through ahead of them, and to be honest, I think it's the right decision with Giuseppe De Anna so close in front of them. And we've seen Giuseppe De Anna make a couple of really small mistakes that haven't quite cost them yet so far in this race, but all it takes is one big mistake or just a couple of small mistakes in a quick sequence of corners. You can easily find yourself losing a position. We have a lapped car in front as well, I believe, just moving out the way. That's the number 25 car. Moved out the way for Giuseppe De Anna. I believe they're going to move out of the way now on the straight, or not, going down into the final chicane. And this is going to frustrate Menno Crozen, because now they're going to start losing time to Giuseppe De Anna, and they have the two silver cars right on their tail as well, and they're not going to care about the fact a back marker is in the way of the pro car. They're going to want to capitalize on that as much as they can. Crozen will find a way through, but Curtin will find a way through as well, following along. Pilbeam, is he going to get held up coming towards turn 2 now? Nope, the back marker will move themselves out of the way, and Menno Crozen will probably be quite frustrated with that.
Oh, absolutely. You've just seen the guy ahead of you pass this back marker, easy peasy lemon squeezy, and then suddenly you're stuck behind them for the entire back straight and 2 sequences of corners. And that's allowed the car that you were just hanging onto the rear wing of them to create a gap, and then it's pushed you into the car behind them. So yes, I think we could all understand Crozen would definitely be a little bit irritated. I'm sure if we had in-car microphones, there'd be some choice words there, but definitely hasn't let it phase them too much though, because they are now rebuilding the gap to Curtin and closing the gap down to De Anna.
So we did have a few accidents on the first lap of the race, and we have got some stewarding decisions for some of those accidents. I'll give you a little read through what Connor has handed over to me today. So incident on lap 1, turn 10, involving 86, 9 and 725. Drive-through penalty for car 86 was too late on the brakes, leads to a dive bomb and takes out 2 other cars. So fairly straightforward penalty that went the way of the 86, and that was Pedro Santos in the 86 car. Then lap 1, turn 5, 172, 404 and 69. No further action on that one. The 404 turns in too early, cutting across the nose of the 172. Slight incident with the 69, but the stewards judged it as no further action. Each car could have done better to avoid the incident. Lap 1, turn 8, 69, 12 and 19, all involved in a little bit of a scrap. 69 overtakes and turns in front of the number 12 while still alongside. Slight contact, judged as a racing incident. Then we have an incident on lap 1, turn 10, this time involving the 190, the 19, the 404 and the 25. Now, this is a pretty serious one. Stop and go 10 for car 190. That was Cormac Quinn. 190 fails to notice the cars in front while trying to go through the pits to serve a drive-through penalty and takes out multiple cars, and that is on the opening lap. So stop and go penalty 10 is the harshest penalty that our stewards can apply besides the disqualification. So Cormac Quinn, unfortunately, not really winning any karma in the stewards' favour early on in the race. And then there was a lap 1, turn 5 incident involving the 223 and the 35. That was minor contact, judged as a racing incident. And since then, they have judged a lap 2 incident at turn 4 between the 14 and the 78. That has been judged as a racing incident as well. We await the rest of the incidents that have happened throughout the race for them to judge. I'm interested to see what happens with the Pedro Santos Harley Chamberlain accident where Pedro Santos lost the car. We, of course, didn't quite see everything that happened in that accident, so it'll be interesting to find out what exactly did happen. But I have seen on the screen, Nate, that we've got a couple of drivers coming in for some early strategy calls.
Yep, I definitely saw Crozen in the pits there, so it's going to be interesting to see which strategy they pick. Are they going to go tyres? Are they going flash and dash? As we see Curtin going a bit wide there, and Pilbeam gets the move done. So what happened there? Was there a little bit of contact? Was it just Curtin being a bit late on the brakes? It was
cutting. Yeah,
I think it was more of an avoiding action.
Yeah, it's the Curtin possibly did have to take avoiding action, but at the same time, cutting across the corner, they had to slow down. Otherwise, they could be at risk of receiving a drive-through penalty or a track warning if they're already on a few warnings, which could be possible at this stage. And well, that's an interesting one to look out for. The stewards might have a little bit of a look at that for us. And oh, I have just seen at the bottom of my screen, we've got the first victim of drive-through penalty for track limits. And it's unfortunately Darren Mulholland, who didn't have a great race out at Suzuka, and they're not having a great time here at Zolder either. And now they have a drive-through penalty to their name. And by the way, I have just been told by Tom Bryant, who's in the stewarding box tonight, that car 86, which was Pedro Santos that took out Harley Chamberlain, is about to be disqualified for max license points accumulated during a race.
Wow, that's... I don't know if I'm impressed or shocked about that.
I mean, I can tell you that the admin running the series and the stewards helping steward the series are not going to be too happy about that. The fact that we've seen that twice across 2 weeks now is not really a good sign, but you know, the stewards are there to do a job, and if they deem that a car is too dangerous and they have to be disqualified, they will do it. And just an example there of the fact that the stewards are not afraid to pull the punches when they need to. And I think that is fair when, you know, Pedro Santos has already had a drive-through penalty for a lap 1 accident, and then they've gone and taken out Harley Chamberlain, presumably, you know, just through no, you know, accident that was caused by another car. You know, at that stage in the stewarding verdict, you kind of have to give out a really harsh penalty, and the stewards have decided that disqualification is the only thing they can award in that situation.
I've just been having a look back through the penalties. They also had a drive-through at round 1 in Suzuka for causing a multi-car accident. And then obviously they had their lap 1 incident here, and then another incident on lap 6 as well. So, a little bit unfortunate for them, but yeah, I suppose hopefully they'll have a think about how they approach lap 1 and come back a little bit sharper.
Well, I did say before the race with the live stewards around, they do punish lap 1 incidents much harsher because they expect you to take it easy. It's a 75-minute race. You do not win the race down at the first corner or on the first lap for that matter. And the stewards, you know, they're not afraid to punish people harshly for silly incidents on the first lap. Back to the racing action as we move away from some of the stewards' resolutions, some of those incidents. We'll update you if there are any more incidents that we get verdicts on throughout the race. And this is on board with Olivier Curtin, who is trying to get that place back from the likes of Alex Pilbeam. Both of these drivers sitting in the remaining podium positions for the silver class. Quite a gap between themselves and the likes of Rins Krozen up in front. But with the way strategy could play out in this race, anything still possible. And one of the things that you and I are going to have to start looking out for, I suppose, Nate, is who's taking tyres and who isn't.
Do you know what? It's quite scary because I was literally just about to say, hey, Ryan, do you know if Krozen took tyres or not? And then you come across with that one.
Let's have a quick readout, shall we, of the pit stop times of the cars that we know have pitted in the race. Menno Krozen, 1 minute 16 seconds. And a reminder for folks at home, that is pit in to pit out. That is not the stationary time. So whilst those pit stop times might sound a bit long, you've got to remember that's road in to road out. So 1 minute 16 seconds is the total pit lane time for Menno Krozen. Bart Macho is about 10 seconds quicker than that. We did see Olaf Leffer with a 1 minute 27, although they did have damage from hitting the wall after a spin, so I would not be surprised if the damage is mostly why they've had a long pit stop. Then we had Nico Kumpu with a 1 minute 1 in the pit lane. So I imagine Bart Macho and Nico Kumpu have not taken tyres, because 1 minute seems like very quick for pit in to pit out if you're doing a pit stop. So probably just a splash and dash of fuel from them. However, Menno Krozen, on the other hand, is that just them taking a lot more fuel? Or have they considered tyres in there as well? Although I think if they considered tyres, it would be more than 10 seconds longer than Bart Macho's pit stop.
Yeah, it's a strange one as we see. Oh, is that Curtin there having a little bit of a moment?
And this is Valentin Barrier now, who will be coming through.
And is through. Did not need a second invitation to go through that open door.
No, so 10 seconds then. I mean, unless Bart Macho has also taken quite a bit of fuel, I very much doubt that Menno Krozen has taken tyres either. Although we have got Tobias Hoppner with a 1 minute 43 in the pit lane, and that's on lap 4, but I very much doubt that is tyres either, and that probably comes down to damage, as we've seen the 19 involved in quite a few incident reports through no fault of their own.
I think we need to see some of the front runners stop and try and gauge their times, because the front runners haven't really been in any accidents, so they shouldn't, by all accounts, have any damage. So if we see one of the front runners pulling, say, a 1 minute 16, or sort of around that number, we could perhaps assume that it's just fuel. And if we see someone else going for maybe a 146, then we could perhaps again assume that they are taking tyres as well. So I think our judgments are all going to be based on when the front runners stop for their mandatory pit stops.
Well, Killian Ryan Meenan in the chat to support his brother Cormac, and he's let us know that Cormac's on a fun strategy and the race will come to him. So that's something to keep an eye on. The fact that Cormac didn't have a great qualifying, down in 20th overall. Sitting 10th right now, but he's on a fun strategy according to Killian, and I wonder, is that... I mean, is that tyres? Is that no stop? You know, it's an interesting thing for us to consider. Killian obviously not giving away any clues as to what that could be, but Cormac on an interesting strategy, and he is the only FFS racing car out here for the Monday Championship this time around. So he'll have to carry the weight of the FFS racing team on his shoulders for this season. Of course, didn't have a great first race, but did get to the end of the race despite being 2 laps down and did score some points for his troubles. So back to the lead, or leader rather, Simon Bauer in first place, 3.8 seconds up the road from Oleg Pikchik, and looking pretty good at the moment for the number 13. Set down pole position and has just gone into the lead of the race and hasn't really looked back since. And looking at the fastest lap times at this stage in the race, they also have the fastest lap of the race. So could we see 2 different drivers in 2 weeks get hat tricks, Nate? I mean, that would be quite an interesting thing to see across 2 weeks at completely different circuits.
I mean, I'd definitely like to see it because it will keep the championship fresh and exciting, because we'll never know. We'll turn up next race and go, well, who's going to do what here and who's going to go fastest? Although I'm hoping the pattern won't be, as we see some very clean racing there, as we see, was that Peter Roach and Andy Boardman?
Yeah.
They were, again, left each other the space, and they sort of danced around each other, with Boardman coming out the victor of that one. But as I was saying, sorry, I'm hoping we don't see a pattern of the person who qualifies on pole runs away with fastest lap and the race win. I don't want to, again, I've already made my mistake today of jumping to conclusions by jumping on my Diana hype train. That crashed and burned quite rapidly. But yeah, I'm hoping...
Well, you're not the only one cheering on Giuseppe Dana. There's been quite a few Giuseppe Dana fans in the chat today. And of course, shout out to anyone who is here to support a driver today. It's always great to see drivers getting backing from family, friends, or just people that you know, they've decided they like a particular driver and they want to support them. And you know, I have a couple of drivers like that. No shame in admitting that I'm a Mike Noble fan. And oh, we've got a car off at turn 4. That's the number 19. Oh, that's Hopner down in 26th place. They've come off at turn 4. And that car is not moving, as we can see.
Going again.
Oh, it is going now. We can see Olaf Leffer up the inside of Sontag. Both of these cars in different classes. They're going to make the racing plenty close, though, and Leffer is going to get up the inside and through on the 2-2-3. And that puts them up into 19th overall. I do wonder if Hopner in the number 19 was maybe just waiting for a safe part of the track to rejoin on, because there were quite a few cars coming past them. And if that was the case, that's always good to see, because safe rejoins are what we expect out of drivers here at RCI. And, well, bad rejoins do get punished by the stewards.
Yeah, I think there's nothing worse than a car going off and you can see them very clearly off the track and suddenly just rejoining across the nose of your car and causing you endless amounts of damage. And it's just, if you'd have waited just 5 more seconds, not even that, we both could have carried on our way and got on with our race. So, yeah, safe rejoins are definitely one of the hot topics. And again, like you said, glad to see that all the drivers are respecting that and not just in a blind panic flooring the throttle in an attempt to get back on track as fast as they can.
Olaf Leffer is trying to make their way back up the grid as fast as they can and up into 18th place overall now. You might have just seen Giuseppe D'Anna in front, and oh, here is the leader into the pit lane. In fact, both of the leading cars, Pitchick in as well, both of them in. So here we go, Nate. We get to find out what is going to be the strategy for the 2 cars towards the front of the grid. Seedor also into the pit lane. So it's going to be nice to see what they can do. Van Kampen has been in the pits as well, the number 35. They had a 54-second pit stop. That, to me, sounds like a splash and dash.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. That's no, there was definitely no tyres there, was there? But
no, definitely not.
Now we wait with bated breath to see, well, first of all, where Bauer and Pitchick come out at. As we see, so Bauer has had a 1 minute 15 stop, and Pitchick a 1:17.
Well, if we go by the logic that Van Kampen with 54 seconds is a splash and dash, it's 20 more seconds for Simon Bauer's pit stop. I don't think that's a splash and dash then from the likes of Kampen. I think they've taken quite a bit of fuel on board, at least quite a bit. It could be that Simon Bauer has taken tyres. And
It could be, but Crozen's
Pitchick
in.
as well. Pitchick with a 1:17, the same as Seedorf. And that is also the same as Crozen, a 1:16. Alex Pilbeam, a 1:19. I think we've had quite a few drivers take tyres here, Nate.
It's looking that way, but the problem is the times are all still so close. Again, some drivers are taking a little bit longer, but that may be because they had damage. But the times are all so close that it's hard to tell. I mean, Alan Knight, I don't know if they've pitted, but I have a timer here. I don't. You'll be able to confirm this of a 1:46. So what would that be? Well, we've got Valentin Barrier and Crozen in the pits now. We again wait with bated breath to see what times they set.
Well, judging by what we've seen so far today, I'm convinced that a 1:15 is definitely tyres. In fact, we've got Tom Bryant, one of our stewards here today, has taken a moment to release himself from the commentary box and has told us that Pilbeam has taken tyres. Now, Pilbeam did a 1:19. If that is tyres, then it's fair to say that Simon Bauer has taken tyres with a 1:15, Pitchick with a 1:17, and Crozen with a 1:16. And then the 81 car of Rins Crozen has taken a 1:20. So it is fair to say those are all changes of tyres out here today. So the leaders have clearly decided 75 minutes on these tyres it's a death sentence.
Yeah, it's definitely not the way to go. As we see a car going full sideways there into turn 2. That was a good catch. I didn't quite see which car that was. Was it the 404? I don't think it was that colour.
No, it wasn't Bart
There it is. We just got the end of it.
The
172.
That was Valentin Barrier, actually, who is on a new set of tyres, I believe, at this stage. Yep, 1:17 for his pit stop. So, Valentin Barrier getting the most out of his tyres.
I paid for them. I'm going to use them.
Yep, might as well. And he's going to try and work his way back up the grid. Of course, a lot of the drivers still haven't stopped. In fact, every driver in the top 7 is yet to stop. Then it's also Poama and Suardi that are yet to stop in the race. Now, I wonder, with Killian Ryan Meenan telling me that Cormac is on an interesting strategy, I wonder if that means Cormac has decided he's going to go for a no-stop in this race.
That would be interesting.
Well,
I hope you're right. You know what? I hope you're right. That will definitely mix this up completely. Oh, Killian, give a dog a bone. Tell us what he's doing.
Well, as we wait to see what happens with the rest of the field in terms of pit stop strategies, it is now officially Giuseppe Dana that leads the way in the race. Although I imagine there has to be a pit stop coming for Giuseppe Dana at some point in the race, unless, very much like Cormac Ryan, they know they can get to the end of the race. I have to imagine to go 75 minutes here, they're going to have to fuel save quite a bit throughout the entire stint. We've seen James Parker in the BMW do 80 minutes here, and he said he had about 2 laps of fuel left. I like to imagine that the NSX could probably do 75 minutes around here, but you will definitely need to do some fuel saving. I'm not convinced it can do 75 on map 1. And into not turn 1, but the second chicane, we have Suardi getting past the likes of Valentin Barrier. And that is confusing to me, Nate, because Suardi hasn't been into the pit lane. So they're not on fresh tyres. We believe Barrier is on fresh tyres. And yet it seems like Valentin Barrier is the one who is struggling at this stage in the race, although he has just taken the place back from Sergio Suardi. So back up into 14th overall Barrier goes, and Bart Matcher now creeping on the back of Suardi's number 27. And here is Poama on the inside, and that is Rins Crozen going past them. And they were the leader of the silver class before they pitted. Curtin has not pitted. Pilbeam has pitted, so of course they are behind the likes of Rins Krozen now. But interesting strategy afoot for what will be in the 38 cars camp. Alan Knight has come out of the pit lane. They've gone in and served their pit stop. Have they taken tyres? Yes, they have. 1 minute 15. So Alan Knight has decided to take tyres. A lot of drivers taking tyres. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see how many of these cars are going for a splash and dash. I mean, looking at it right now, Andy Boardman is going for a splash and dash. 1 minute 2. That has to be only fuel. That can't be tyres. It's impossible.
Yeah, definitely not. And I would also argue that Bart Matcher with a 106 has also not taken tyres.
Stephen Van Kampen as well, a 54-second pit stop. He's taken a lot less fuel than everyone else for his pit stop, but he has done a splash and dash. Although he is down in 21st overall, so it hasn't really done him that much good at this stage in the race, although there are still plenty of drivers that we are expecting to come into the pit lane. But yeah, definitely interesting to see the likes of Bart Matcher, who has definitely not changed tyres. They've saved about 10.5 seconds over the likes of Valentin Barrier, who did change tyres. And Valentin Barrier was up in the top 10, weren't they, when they came into the pit lane? So reason to believe that Bart Matcher should be in the top 10 once pit stops cycle through. But at the moment, for us, with less than 30 minutes to go, it's pretty much just a waiting game at this stage in the race.
I really want to know. Maybe, right, okay, hear me out. I'm putting on, I don't know if you could call it a tinfoil hat, because it's not really a conspiracy theory, but...
Tinfoil hat time with Nate.
It's, yeah, Nate's hot take of the race, right? Deanna was slow and losing time because they're in fuel saving and tyre saving. And now they're going to go to the end, no pit stop.
Well, you had a pretty not hot take at Suzuka last week, but as we get a replay here, and that is the number 82, I believe, of Menno Krozen. It is, and just a little bit of a mistake there, losing some time. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult to call, isn't it? Because we've seen drivers in both classes do very different strategies now. We've seen Bart Matcher only taking the fuel. We've seen plenty of the pro drivers at the front taking tyres. So we have reason to believe that, well, each of the drivers knows that their strategy is the right strategy. Only one of them is on the right strategy. We have no idea who that is at this stage in the race. Alan Knight is trying to climb his way back up the order, by the way. Had a difficult race at Suzuka. Alan Knight had to start from the pit lane and did quite well to recover as many positions as they did. And look at that, on the inside of Andy Boardman, trying to find a way through. Olaf Leffer in the background as well, just trying to say, can I join in? Can I find a way through? No? Yes? Maybe? Perhaps? No, not at this stage. And oh, there we go. Alan Knight on the inside of Andy Boardman and is going to get the place done for overall position. Won't count towards anything in the points. But nice to see some of the drivers in different classes getting their elbows out with each other. And now that puts Boardman under pressure from Olaf Leffer behind.
I've got a feeling that perhaps Leffer was maybe just waiting for these two to tangle, because they did look like they were getting a little bit too close to each other for comfort. But alas, they kept it clean. No one's gone off yet. We've not really seen any unfortunate accidents.
Nate, this is interesting. Curtin has come in and they've finished, and they've taken a 58-second pit in to pit out. They have not taken tyres. Rins Krozen has taken tyres, and you know what that means? Curtin is going to lead the silver class on pit exit.
But now, with those old shoddy tyres, can they hold
They have
the position?
27 minutes to go.
That's a long time.
And Krozen is on fresh tyres that they can push hard.
And he's right there. Oh, this is going to be a battle to watch. This is going to be the one to watch.
Only 1.6 seconds. I mean, if there is any circuit on the calendar in which you can defend a position with shot tyres, Zolder is going to be that circuit, as Olaf Leffer and Andy Boardman go side by side into turn one. Leffer is going to go around the outside. It'll turn into the inside of turn 2, but the move is done. It does not matter. And Olaf Leffe recovering nicely. I'm getting a little bit too excited in the comms box here. I mean, the heat's getting to us a bit. And, yeah, Olaf Leffe recovering very, very well and getting past the likes of Andy Boardman. And now we'll look to chase down Alan Knight further up the road. Here is Cormac Ryan Meenan, by the way, on the fun strategy. He's got Peter Roche and Bauer for company. Bauer has, of course, been into the pit lane and has changed tyres, so they're on fresh tyres. Here is Giuseppe De Anna coming out of the pit lane, and look at how much that gap has closed. Giuseppe De Anna has gone for a splash and dash. And Nate, 51-second pit in to pit out. That is the fastest pit stop of the race.
I did notice that. That is quite quick. So I'm wondering the drivers that are having sub 1 minute pit stops, obviously not taking tyres, but did they carry more fuel for the start of the race? So they didn't need to put as much in when they made their first stop? It's an interesting one as we see that's getting tight. Oh my goodness me. That could have so easily have ended in tears then.
I think Cormac Ryan Meenan realizing that Bauer is, well, going to get past him at some stage and just thinking it's better to concede it at this point. If Cormac's on the no-stop strategy that we potentially think he could be on, then, of course, he's not really going to want to fight these guys. He's got to just save as much fuel as he can. He's got the likes of Peter Roche behind, and then Giuseppe De Anna. De Anna has pitted, but De Anna hasn't actually changed tyres either. So, in that sense, Giuseppe De Anna's not going to be that much quicker than Cormac, I don't think. I mean, lap time will be a difference if one is saving fuel and the other isn't. But I'd like to think that Cormac Ryan Meenan, I know how good he is at defending. He kept me behind at Laguna Seca for about 90 minutes, rather disappointingly. You know, I imagine Cormac probably could keep Giuseppe De Anna behind for the rest of this race, but it's going to come down to mistakes, isn't it? And it's also going to come down to how much quicker Giuseppe De Anna is without saving fuel. But first of all, they have the likes of Peter Roche in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, before we can even guess how Cormac Ryan Meenan will defend, we have to see if De Anna can get past Peter Roche here. But we believe Roche took tyres, did they not? So
Peter Roche hasn't been into the pit lane yet.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. So he's
has not
essentially
pitted.
out of position. Oh, okay. Interesting.
So same as Cormac Ryan Meenan, they have not pitted at this stage, and I mean it's entirely possible Peter Roche could be on the same strategy as Cormac Ryan Meenan, and if that's the case, they're not going to move over for Giuseppe De Anna because they're going to the flag. So
yeah.
Interesting situation here, and Cormac is having to go defensive over here, and three drivers all cluttered in so close together. Meanwhile, in silver, Rinskrosen has caught up to the back of Olivier Curtin, hasn't found a way through just yet, and we'll keep you up to date on that battle as it progresses. But here we have in the Pro Class, this is effectively a battle for the podium.
Yeah, but keep an eye on the background because Pitchik is slowly creeping up. This is exactly what De Anna does not need. He does not need to get caught up behind cars in front of him that are running slower because they're running to their own race. He needs to try and dispatch them and get past them as quickly as he can to put them between himself and Pitchik if he stands a hope of potentially claiming a podium here today.
Oh, is Rinskrosen on the inside? Doesn't quite commit to the move, and Curtin will stay ahead for the time being. Peter Roche has dropped off from the likes of Cormac Ryan Meenan, and that's going to give Giuseppe De Anna some much-needed motivation to get past this number 21. And I've been in this situation before. It's so frustrating. A driver hasn't pitted. You don't know what their strategy is. You just want them to get out of the way. Cormac's had a slow chicane. There's a slight tap on the back from Peter Roche. And look how defensive the number 12 is going. I mean, Cormac is a big fan of door-to-door racing. He is not afraid to get his elbows out to defend as hard as he can. And you're seeing this here. He's not afraid if it means touches on the back end of the car. He's not afraid if he has to cut across the front of someone to defend a position. And that's exactly what he's doing here. He's piling on the pressure for Peter Roche, and Giuseppe De Anna probably loving this behind, but also not loving it because Pitchik has now joined in the fight as well. And Pitchik wants to make their way through on Giuseppe De Anna. They're down the inside into the final chicane. Is the Ukrainian going to find a way past the Italian on exit? Yes, he will.
Oh my goodness, that was so close. I thought at one point they might turn each other around, but again, that was exactly what Diana did not need. Got stuck behind the battling Ryan Meenan and Peter Roche and just lost the position. Now, on fresher tyres, we imagine Pitchik should be able to dispatch the pair of these two quite quickly and get on with his own race.
Well, it's an unfortunate situation for Giuseppe D'Anna. Remember, Pitchik has pitted for fresh tyres, and, well, that has come back to bite the likes of Giuseppe D'Anna because Pitchik had so much more pace coming out of the corner once they were side by side. It was impossible for D'Anna to defend that position. And at this stage now, D'Anna just has to hold on to the back of Pitchik until the number 141 can get past these two ahead. But of course, like I said, if Cormac Ryan Meenan is going to the flag, and if the same is true for the likes of Peter Roche, they have no reason to move over from them. Of course, Cormac did move over for the likes of Bauer once they were alongside, but I think he'd realised at that point he wasn't going to defend the position. Peter Roche's tapped the back of Cormac and slightly displaced him. He's going to gain the position as a result of it. There will be a steward's inquiry into that one, no doubt about it, but Peter Roche has claimed the place. I don't think he's going to defend too much from the likes of Pitchik. No, going to let Pitchik go on the exit. Clearly can't defend against the fresh tyres that the 141 has, but you bet Peter Roche is going to go defensive on Giuseppe D'Anna and not concede the position into turn one. Cormac now is rather unfortunately put into the position where he needs to try and get back past these two.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. While these lot have been battling, Oliver Curtin has just slowly creeped up to the back of them. So again, maybe just potentially waiting for these lot to tangle and just fly on through and make some easy positions. But as we see Giuseppe D'Anna go wide, oh, they're going to lose position to Cormac and to Curtin. Oh no, it's all gone wrong for Giuseppe D'Anna. One tiny mistake and it's two positions and a load of time lost against the two of them. As we see Curtin trying to line up a move on Cormac Ryan Meenan, excuse me, and it is now all starting to go off in the final 20 minutes.
Oh dear, for Giuseppe D'Anna, the race just has not really panned out the way they would have hoped after that incredible pit stop that we saw. You were kind of hoping that Giuseppe D'Anna at this point may be able to challenge for those podium positions, but it's just not working out that way, and now stuck behind Cormac Ryan Meenan again, just putting them in an even more difficult situation. They've got back marker just on the back of them as well, the number 95, who is, where is the number 95? It's Redford. Down
as they dive into the pit lane.
No, not actually diving into the pit lane, they took avoiding action. They were going to run into the back of Giuseppe D'Anna, so they took avoiding action into pit road and then cut back across the gravel trap. And, my word, excitement all around here at Zolder, but for Giuseppe D'Anna, it's not excitement right now, although it might be under the helmet. Some of the drivers love races like these, but I can imagine it's frustration as well, as they are stuck behind Cormac Ryan Meenan. And I'm going to be interested to know what the stewards think of that tap down into the hairpin between Peter Roche and Cormac Ryan Meenan. And, oh, this is a replay, in fact. Our broadcaster, Jake, on point. And, I mean...
Oh, no, I don't think that can be deemed any more than a racing incident.
I don't know. I get the feeling that the little tap, you know, contributes to the overtake. Is what I'd argue there. But we'll wait to see what the stewards say. They see all the perspectives. They can see the inputs, and of course, well, they can look at it as many times as they want. So we'll await the steward's verdict on that one. But Giuseppe D'Anna has went past Cormac Ryan Meenan, and Bart Matcher's getting his elbows out as well. And this is alongside with Lucas Seedor into, oh my word. And that was just 2 into 1, didn't quite go for the apex of the chicane right there.
Yeah, it was impressive that both of them kept it pointing in the correct directions. I really thought, well, it definitely looked like Bar Macho was about to go backwards up the hill for the contact he had there, but I'm not quite sure if there was mixed signals there because the indicator was on, but I'm not sure if that was a just a I've sort of accidentally knocked this on, or it was a go round the inside of me for the chicane, and then it was kind of a okay, you're taking too long. I'm going to take the line now, and they just sort of collided with one another. But I hope it's a no harm, no foul sort of incident, as we see Frozen all over the back.
The leader of the silver class has now found Cormac Ryan Meenan, and Cormac doesn't really want to let them through. Cormac's not really interested in the fact that he's a silver class driver. He said, no, I want to make sure there's as many cars between me and my rivals as possible. He's going to stretch them to the edge of the track, and that's going to be an incident.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's anyone to blame here but Cormac for that one. He was maybe a little bit too aggressive with this squeeze here, just actually put Crozen onto the grass. Crozen had nowhere to go, obviously trying to stay on the racetrack. Oh, that's an unfortunate accident. It was going so well.
Well, I did say Cormac Ryan Meenan is not afraid to get his elbows out in defending. You've just seen why. I mean, he's prepared to run someone to the limit of the track if necessary, and, well, unfortunately, it just hasn't quite come out the way he would have hoped there. Crozen will continue onwards in leading the silver class. They have a 1.2 second gap over Curtin at this stage, and Pilbeam is, well, quite comfortably in third place in silver at this stage, as Valentin Barrier is just going to look to get around them at some stage in the next couple of laps.
Oh, is that Pilbeam just running wide?
Well, in fact, Valentin Barrier is going to make it the next couple of corners. So Pilbeam's not really going to defend that, and understandably so. There's about a 10-second gap between Pilbeam and Poama in fourth, and what a recovery, by the way, from Alex Poama. Had an awful qualifying session, but has clawed their way up into fourth place in their class at this stage, and that's a very, very good effort, and it'll do their championship standings well after they finished second last week.
Yeah, where are they now? 12th, so what? Fourth in class, though. That's the key thing, though, is they are fourth in their class. So 12th overall. As we see, Frozen, was that in the barrier, just off the track a little bit?
Have a look. Here is the 81. Oh, that's going to go around. That is in the barrier.
That was the same place we saw.
Leffer.
Who was it? Yes, thank you.
It was Leffer.
It's almost a carbon copy of that incident, but looks like they got away with very little damage, so they will continue on. And, well, I was about to say hold their lead in silver, but the timing screen just had not updated, unfortunately. But, you know, to only lose one place, I don't think that's too bad going.
The problem is for Crozen, though, they've done that on fresh tyres, and they've probably maybe lightly flat spotted those tyres as well, which isn't going to help them for the remainder of the race. And, well, like you said, they've lost the lead of silver now, and I would like to think that Curtin is probably just gonna, you know, take it easy, because they haven't pitted. They know that their tyres, you know, aren't going to be in the best of situations right now, and they're just going to want to ease it to the end of the race. Crozen has got damage on their car now, and, well, here's a familiar look. Giuseppe Dana on the back of Peter Roche again. By the way, the incident between Peter Roche and Cormac Ryan Meenan was judged as a racing incident, so Nate, you were spot on with that one. But the incident between the likes of Crozen and Cormac Ryan Meenan is currently being looked at by the stewards. We should have a verdict on that within the next few laps, hopefully, and we'll have to see what the stewards say about that. Was it too harsh from Cormac Ryan Meenan, or was it too ambitious to try and squeeze through that small gap from Crozen? We'll have to see what the stewards make of it, and meanwhile, all that is happening, Peter Roche continues their defence against the likes of Giuseppe D'Anna, and I'm pretty sure that Peter Roche is doing the exact same thing that Cormac Ryan Meenan was doing, which is going to the end of the race without pitting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it comes off. But still holding D'Anna up here. D'Anna's sat there thinking, I've been here before. I've been behind this car before. Why is it still ahead of me? There's I don't know, like you said, maybe smiling under the helmet. We won't really know. I think personally, I would probably be frustrated. As they go for the move on the inside, no, not quite stick the nose up there, pull out just to get in the mirrors of your competitor, make them take an awkward line into the corner to defend a move that you haven't put on. As we see now, they come down into the second chicane. Not much again. Diana just filling the mirrors of Roach, just trying to scare them into a mistake, pressure them into a mistake. But in all credit to Roach, they are holding their nerve. They're not making any mistakes. They're not running wide or taking sort of adverse lines. They're just running their own race and going, well, if you want to get past me, you need to get past me. I'm not getting out of the way for you.
Yeah, Peter Roche definitely driving their own race, but like you said, not going to willingly move out of the way. And the downside for Giuseppe Dana is that, well, I mean, neither of them took tyres. Giuseppe Dana chose not to take tyres, so they haven't got a tyre advantage over the likes of Peter Roche. And if Peter Roche is saving fuel to go 75 minutes without pitting, it's pretty clear that they're not pushing their tyres as hard as Giuseppe Dana probably has been. So in fact, their tyres might in fact be better than the number 11's car. The only difference will be the fuel maps, which affects acceleration and top end in the cars, but Zolder is not the easiest place to overtake on pure pace unless you have a significant lap speed advantage over your opponent. And right now, Giuseppe Dana just does not appear to have that.
No, it is interesting. I mean, again, we see they managed to catch up, but they can't seem to get past, which is very, very interesting. It's definitely going to see how long they can battle each other. See if there's either contact or one of them makes a mistake, but fingers crossed that we get a nice battle between the two of them for the next, well, 9.5 minutes.
Well, I have a couple of incident reports to go over, so let's have a look at those. Lap 36, turn 13, involving 12 and 21 was racing incident. That's the one that I told you about earlier, that Nate called correctly. Lap 38, turn 7, involving the 404 and the 199. That was Cedar and Bartmatcher 2-1 into the first chicane, and it was judged that the 199 dive bombed the 404. And through that, the 199 has been given a 5-second time penalty. You can see that on your screen. That'll be added to their race time at the end of the race. Then, here is the crucial one, Nate. You ready? Incident on lap 39, turn 7, involving car 12 and 81. Car 12 forces 81 to the edge of the track, pushes them too far, and takes themselves out in the process. No further action.
Yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I know it may seem harsh, but the only person to blame for that accident was Cormac Ryan Meenan for being so overly aggressive. There was definitely not a need.
A car that wasn't even in the same class as them, by the way. It wasn't even for points positions.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame. I mean, don't get me wrong, the defending that they were doing was fantastic to watch for the lap after lap, but yeah, just took it a step too far, was a little bit too over-aggressive. Definitely shouldn't have squeezed them that hard, but unfortunately, yeah, like I said, no one really to blame but themselves for that one.
Well, Olivier Curtin is looking pretty good right now, as he's still got the likes of Rins Krozen behind. 8 minutes to go in this race. Rins Krozen does have fresh tyres, but they've gone around for a spin, possibly flat-spotted them. And, well, Curtin is currently running on tyres that are well over an hour old at this stage in the race. And the same can be said for Peter Roche and Giuseppe D'Anna, neither of those coming into the pit lane to change tyres, so they're going to the end, and you can see the silver leaders in the background as well. So everything getting very, very tasty, and I think, Nate, for the second week in a row, the silver battle is going to come down to the last couple of laps in the race. And, well, up in front, interesting situation that we haven't yet discussed, Nate. Ataberk Ertan is leading the race, and he has done for quite a while now because he hasn't been into the pit lane. Do you think he is also on a no-stop strategy, and with an 11-second lead and 7 minutes to go, has Ertan got this wrapped up, assuming he doesn't make any mistakes?
Ah, so you're about to give him the commentator's curse. You take that back right now. But, yeah, I mean, if you're sat in that seat and you're looking at the gaps, you're thinking, as there is a little bump and grind there between Peter Roach and Giuseppe D'Anna, But yeah, if you're sat in Ayrton's car, you're looking at the gaps, you're thinking, I'm not in a bad position here.
I've got this, you know.
Yeah, I can do.
That's what's
There's
going
no
through your
way
mind.
someone is making 11 seconds on me in 6.5 minutes.
Well, he's not. Simon Bauer is only making up 0.7 of a second per lap. He's not making up, and he's on fresh tyres, by the way. Ertan isn't on fresh tyres, so Ertan has this wrapped up, assuming they don't make any mistakes. Curtin definitely doesn't have this wrapped up. They've got their challenger for the lead of the silver class less than half a second behind them, and this is going to be tasty. The last 6 minutes of the race, we're probably looking at 4 more laps to the end, and well, Olivier Curtin, they defended from Poama, didn't they, for the last 2-3 laps of the race. Poama had fresh tyres, Curtin didn't. They managed to keep Poama behind just on the final lap to win the race. Could it be a replica of that a week later with a different driver behind them on a completely different circuit, but the same strategy?
Oh, it'd be... I feel like you'd be having flashbacks if you were Curtin. But, oh, this battle's getting interesting. Is Giuseppe Diana finally going to get it moved done on the inside of the chicane? It's going to be tight there. Oh.
There's contact!
Oh, now watch out for the rest of the cars. Don't get caught up in another accident. Okay, everyone's through.
That was very good from Giuseppe Diana to wait for the cars to go through before rejoining. Although Giuseppe Diana's not going to be happy about that. They'll feel they had the inside line. Here goes Croson on the inside line. And he's going to take the position. There was no way Curtin was going to be able to defend that position with the tyres that they have at this stage in the race. And here comes Valentin Barrier for good measure as well. He wants to get through. So Croson has taken over the lead of Silver with a few laps to go. But the question is, can they hold it? We've seen them make a mistake already in this race with those fresh tyres. And now they're trying to defend from Valentin Barrier, who's not even in the same class as them.
Again, it's just instinct to defend. It's just that you see a car behind you, you don't want it past you. But, yeah, was that Peter Roach going slow on the inside there? Or was that a different car? I didn't catch the number.
No, Peter Roach is going fine. I think
still ahead, yeah,
behind
okay.
with Giuseppe Diana, that is... I'm not entirely sure who that is, actually. I think that was a back marker. Just behind Giuseppe Diana that had a little bit of a look at unlapping themselves, and that kind of sums up how Giuseppe Diana's day has gone so far. Stuck behind second place in Silver, and not really an ideal situation for them. They have just dropped further down the field in this race, and now Rins Croson finds the situation that Giuseppe Diana has dealt with for the last 30 minutes of the race. They've got Peter Roche in front on a fuel-saving strategy, just saying, oh, don't mind me, I'm just going to race my own race. If you want to get around me, you've got to find a way around me.
Yeah, I feel there'll be some choice words in the helmet from Diana after that incident. Again, I feel like you can only really judge it as a racing incident because I don't think anyone was being too aggressive there. It was just, unfortunately, the track went left. There was enough of Diana's car ahead of Roach's that when they eventually met on the corner, it just swapped them around. But then you could argue that maybe one of them should have, or both of the drivers, I say, should have given more space. But again, was that just a case of the frustration we saw creeping in from Diana, just now desperate to get past the car they've been stuck behind for 30 minutes?
Valentin Barrier. Here is Valentin Barrier. He wants a podium, and he's going to get onto the podium. Up into third place, Valentin Barrier gets past Peter Roche, but he makes a mistake. He goes wide on the exit of turn 4. That's going to allow Roche back into this. And unless Valentin Barrier is going to be late on the brakes, is this going to be moved on? They're going to go to the chicane. They touch slightly. Valentin Barrier will get the better exit, and likewise, Rins Croson will follow through.
There's so many blue cars.
Valentin Barrier, you'd think they're all in the same team, but they're not. And Valentin Barrier will get that third place eventually. And I've just been told Atabak Ertan has pitted because they decided they couldn't get to the end on their tank of fuel. Now that raises a question. Will Peter Roche pit? Or does Peter Roche know that they can make it to the end of the race? There's going to be 2 more laps here at Zolder, by the way, and, well, Peter Roche has got to last those 2 laps. They're not coming into the pit lane this time around. And the real question has to be, if Peter Roche can make it to the end of the race without pitting for fuel, then surely Ertan has just not saved enough fuel and has given away a win.
Oh, you'd be kicking yourself, wouldn't you, with less than 2 minutes to go, needing to stop for fuel. You'd be saying to yourself, why did I not save that little bit extra?
I've just seen one of the Crozen cars. It was Menno Crozen just going sideways through turn 2. We're going to get a replay here. Have a little bit of look at this drift.
Oh, that was close to dropping it, wasn't it?
It was, and Giuseppe Dana will get through to kind of add to their frustrations. They've now got Peter Roche directly in front of them again, and Giuseppe Dana will think, what do I have to do to get rid of this number 21 car? The 27, by the way, of Suardi has got to drive through for track limits abuse, so that's not really helping their day at all. Simon Bauer has started the final lap of the race, and we all await to see what the result is of this battle. If Peter Roche can hold this on and get 5th place, this is going to be an absolutely incredible battle, but Giuseppe Dana going to be on the inside, and this time, can Giuseppe Dana put the pace down and get past? No, it doesn't look like it. They're going to have to take to the grass slightly, and they're going to be behind Peter Roche coming towards the final chicane. They have a lap to go. There's contact! And was Diana punted from behind, I wonder?
And I'd say, yeah, it was quite an odd instant. We'll have to, well, here we go. We got the replay. We'll have to go and have a look.
We're going to see in behind.
Yeah, so
I think there is contact.
I think what happened there was Diana tried to move across into the racing line. Unfortunately, I didn't quite see what car that was. I think it was one of the Crozen.
Oh, dear.
Oh.
Giuseppe Dana, so something has happened afterwards. Oh, no, that's got into Bart Matcher.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, Giuseppe Dana's race. Oh, it's gone from bad to worse. Something happened on the start-finish straight for Giuseppe Dana. After the replay that we had seen, Simon Bauer is coming up to the final couple of corners. Flawless race from this car, by the way. The number 13 missed round 1, didn't miss round 2, and I think it's going to be a hat-trick as well for Simon Bauer. The number 13 crosses the line, and a fantastic race from them. They looked unbeatable out there today and definitely deserved it as well. Meanwhile, Curtin is having to defend from Pilbeam. Pilbeam went and got tyres, by the way, in the silver class. Is that now going to come back and bite Curtin at the last possible moment? They've lost out on the win. Crozen will win in the silver class. It'll be Pitchick and Barrier that round out the pro podium, but does Pilbeam have a chance coming into the final chicane here? Won't do it on the entry. Will they be able to get a better run on the exit? Does not look like it. Curtin will hold on for 2nd place from Pilbeam in 3rd. But a fantastic race again. And here is the replay, by the way. This is what happened to Giuseppe Dana coming down the pit straight. Did they just... Oh, contact there with... That's Ertan. That was Ataberk Ertan that they just had contact with, moved over onto the side of the car. Oh, dear. And, well, the stewards are not going to be happy with this. They're going to have to book in some late night time to have a look through some of these incidents post-race. And my word, I mean, if you thought the ending to Suzuka a week ago in the silver class was exciting, well, we've had drama all round at the ending of both classes here at Zolder. And my word, Nate, you couldn't have written this race if you tried.
My God, yeah, I didn't know who was going to end where and what was going to happen to anyone. That was so unpredictable. There wasn't ever a point in that race other than sort of maybe Bauer walking away with it. But even then, we questioned it because we thought maybe Ertan might get the no-stop strat. But yeah, what a fantastic race with a mix of strategies. But
Roche, by the way, did pull off the no-stop strategy. Finished 8th overall, but that will be 5th in class. So it was definitely possible today for Ertan, but just didn't save enough fuel. And I mean, there's no other way to put it. That's cost them a win, hasn't it?
Sadly, yeah, like you said, hindsight is 2020, and perhaps saving a little bit more fuel could have net them the win, but what can you do? That's racing.
Well, the stewards definitely have a lot of work to do post race, and we will, well, for the viewers at home, unfortunately, you will probably have to wait until next week to find out the resolution of those incidents, because there were quite a few in quick succession in the final couple of laps. Of course, now that the race is over, the stewards will take plenty of time to assess each of those incidents and make sure that the correct decision is reached regarding those accidents. I rather get the feeling, Nate, there are going to be some penalties coming out post race, and people are not going to be happy about it. But the official classification then: Simon Bauer wins the race in the pro class from Ollie Pitchik, and that is a 16.2-second lead they had in the end. Absolutely fantastic. Valentin Barrier, of course, rounding out the pro podium. Then, of course, it is Renault Crozen in the silver class that took the honours, only by about 5.2 seconds from Olivier Curtin, who did hold off Pilbeam for third in the silver class. And plenty of drama towards the end of the race. But if you are, well, looking for more RCI action throughout the week, we'll definitely have action on for you. The Friday Donington special will return on Friday, of course, and all the cars that were all the drivers, that were driving in BMWs in that race will now be in the Nissan GTRs at Donington Park. And I've heard that it's pretty cloudy out there, so it might have a good chance of raining in the race. Exciting nonetheless. And of course, the Night Owl summer season will have round 2 on Saturday evening as well. The race getting underway at 11 p.m. BST. So if you're a night owl, like staying up late and watching some racing, well, we've got you covered on Saturday evening. We don't have anything going on throughout the week in terms of broadcasts. We do have some racing, though. We have the one-off race room event at the Nordschleife with the World Touring Car WTCR cars. So that's happening tomorrow. So if you're interested in race room, I believe you can still sign up to that event. So go check out RCI's Sim Racing GP community. And of course, talking about Sim Racing GP, well, race department, obviously a big thank you to them. Helped us get off our feet when we first started RCI. Of course, Sim Racing GP is where they're hosting our race room competitions and championships. Then, of course, AK Informatica, they help us host our servers. Driver 61, if you want to have the speed of some of the drivers you've seen out here today, Valentin Barrier, Oleg Pitchik, and Simon Bauer, well, you can get that kind of pace at the Driver 61 Sim Racing Academy. $10 is all it costs to access their academy, and you can get 25% off that price by using the RCI discount code in the description. And of course, Fanatec, big news. We haven't actually had an official announcement about this yet, but Fanatec are officially an affiliate partner for RCI now. So we have an affiliate link in the description that you can use. And if you use that, RCI gets a bit of a commission off any Fanatec hardware that you buy. So if you want to support RCI whilst buying yourself some new sim racing equipment to, change up your sim racing setup, you can use that link below to support RCI. And we do thank you very much for using that link below if you do. But from myself, from Nate Norbury, Jake Boswell behind the cameras, and of course the stewarding team as well, thank you very much for watching today. We will see you in a week's time for Zandvoort.